Welcome to the Empowerment Network. You are in live with Lisa Santiago in the Published Corner. We're so excited to have with us today another story of overcoming with Rebecca Jefffery. She is one of our authors from 2021, where we're continuing to celebrate the authors who have published this year, even though Authors Day was in November, but we have more than just one or two authors. So we wanted to continue to bring their voice, especially because empowerment publishing has such a unique discipline in that we bring authors we bring the stories that have lives in them. They are stories of overcoming. These are stories about something that someone has gone through that now they are helping someone else to get through what they might have felt like they had to go through all by themselves, and allowing them to figure out how to do it a lot easier. And I am excited to bring to you Rebecca Jeffries. She is the author of You Were Made for This. I love it, love it, love it. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm delighted to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so excited to once again bring to the audience You Were Made for This, because your book is so critical, particularly for a new mom who has found out, who has discovered, who has received the prognosis, who has heard from the doctor that their child is on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. Do you want to tell them a little bit about it?
About the spectrum?
Yeah, well, let's first talk about the spectrum a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about how your book can help to allay some of those concerns.
Yeah, so, autism is actually becoming more common, and more girls are getting diagnosed. The numbers just went up recently, 1 in 45 kids.
Wow.
They're fine, yeah. So they're not sure if it's because we have more awareness now, or if they're actually our numbers going up, but either way, it's a problem and it needs to be addressed, and services need to be made available. But along on the lines of what we're doing to help these children who are struggling to just cope from a day-to-day situation with their diagnosis, is the moms struggling to handle the diagnosis and how it's going to change their lives. And starting to realize that they now are not only the mama, but they're also an advocate. And somewhere in there, they have to take care of themselves as well. And that part gets forgotten quite often.
Yeah, taking care of themselves, and even knowing now, all of a sudden, they're thrust into this position where they have to understand sometimes things that they never even heard of.
Exactly. Yeah, it's totally new territory when you hear that.
Material,
unless you had a family member or someone you're exposed to who is struggling with autism, this is like totally new territory. And you're going to have a ton of questions. You're going to have a lot of emotions to deal with. You're going to have exhaustion. You're going to have frustration. It all comes with the job. It's like parenting on steroids. I mean, you're now becoming an expert in a medical diagnosis that you hadn't planned on.
Absolutely. And that's why I really what's one of the elements of the book, although I love the book itself. I feel like it gave me such an insightful understanding of the prognosis, but I particularly enjoy the glossary in the back.
Yeah, it's so true. When you get into this, you're going to get all these new words thrown at you that you've never heard before. Like I remember going to a doctor and she said, you need to take your son to OT. I was like, what the heck's OT? And she's like, occupational therapy. I was like, what does that mean? He's too young to work. I'm thinking occupation. What?
They don't exactly make those things easy to understand. It's almost like, oh, you don't know this? Why don't you know it?
Right. It's, it's their wheelhouse, not ours. Right. So if you can go in with a little bit of vocabulary, you're more empowered. And it helps to lower your stress level because you feel like you have at least a little bit of an inroad to understanding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The same thing comes from not only dealing with the doctors, but then also dealing with the school systems.
Yes.
You've got different terminologies, different areas that you could get help if you knew what to ask
for. Yes, exactly right. And that's huge. I mean, I had teachers telling me, you know, go get your son some help. And I was like, but that's not enough information. I don't know which way to turn, you
Right.
know? So,
It
yeah,
is. It's a whole different language. It really is. But there's a lot of self-care that goes along with equipping the mom. Because if you just
right.
slow down and take care of you,
Hmm.
then when you present yourself to those situations, you can say, wait, I need to understand the best for my child. So you're
Hmm.
going to have to help me.
Right.
And you feel more prepared for that.
Yes. And I learned that the hard way. I had a number of meetings with school officials trying to figure out the best direction for JJ. And I wasn't equipped, and I was so stressed out and so emotionally overwhelmed that I lost it. I
Yeah.
just fell apart. I mean, it wasn't an effective meeting, obviously. It couldn't have been.
It couldn't have been.
Yeah.
But I love that how you capture that in the book and transparently. Also, one of the other chapters that I really loved was the one about, or maybe it was as an entry in it, one about giving yourself permission to celebrate the child where they are.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love that because so often we want to celebrate the milestone that is ascribed to a certain age, to a certain
Right.
grade, versus a milestone for that child.
Right. You have to change that timeline completely to accommodate your expectations and where your child can meet those goals. And once you get there, you really do have to celebrate it, even though it might be a couple years delayed, or it might be presented in a way that was unexpected.
Right.
Just be aware for those moments where you see something typical. I mean, my son is 22 and we still celebrate, maybe not with him, but my husband and I will say it was a typical moment. I'm like, yay, you know,
Right.
you got to celebrate those.
Exactly. Because well, now there are different presentations of autism. Can
Hmm.
you can you share with us any of the more commonly expressed ways that?
Yeah, something you might see out in public with a family that might have an autistic child is when they're having a sensory meltdown. So if you see a child flapping their hands, crying, screaming, clinging to mom, maybe looking like they're just really behaving badly, try not to be quick to make an assumption that this is a bad child. This is a child who's trying to communicate that they need to get out of that environment. They can't process the information they're receiving, and they
Mhm.
just want to crawl out of their own skin.
Yeah.
They're done. So, yeah, being sensitive to other people and you see their situation, you don't necessarily have to offer to help. A lot of times the mom knows what she needs to do, but at least give a sense of understanding and support.
Absolutely. Now they can get this book and some additional tips on your website as
Right.
well. Is
Hmm.
it sproutinghealthyfamilies.com?
It is indeed. And I have a number of professionals in my resources page. A lot of them I have interviewed personally and have worked with personally, so I highly recommend them. So yeah, feel
Absolutely.
free to poke through there and contact anyone you'd like to in there you think might be helpful for your situation.
I think that it was beautifully put together. It's very thoughtful. That particular book is, and I've said this to Rebecca several times, it's just it's therapeutic enough that a mom could read it, just read it from cover to cover, just in
Yep.
our downtime. But it is technical enough that you come across as an expert, while at the same time pleasant enough to come across as a friend who wants you to understand,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I
So
want them to know they're not alone in this. And
absolutely, absolutely. Now, Jacqueline, one of our listening guests, she has a best friend of 50 years who has a special needs son. He has Fragile X. Autism is a part of his challenges, and she says that she has to do everything for him: cut his hair, brush his teeth, wash him, change his pull-ups, and he is blessed to have a sister who was a special needs teacher for years who now lives with them. They're both being paid to care for him. He's now in his 30s and she's going to buy the book for him. And I'm excited for that.
excellent.
I'm excited for that. Absolutely. Now, as a child ages, because that's one of the things that I want to point out.
Yeah.
Rebecca's child is now an adult,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
He is, how old is he?
22.
22?
22. Mm-hmm.
That's right. But there are still some areas that you get to mother him.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I love this kid to death, and I'm not in any hurry to kick him out. I'll put it that way. So there is a lot of grace and beauty that can come from your relationship with your child, even when they're on the spectrum. And you may be with them for their lifetime, and you may not. I have no idea when my son will have the courage and skill set to move out, and we'll definitely support him when that time comes. But right now, he's here, and we're loving it.
And that's okay. And that's one of those other things that you get to sort of define your own adulthood together.
Exactly.
Right? It's not just a legal date of birth association. Right. It is a skill set. It is an awareness, it's ability. And, more than anything else, it's as long as it works, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I've been fortunate enough to move into a new neighborhood in South Carolina where every person we have met has said, how can we help? And how can we make him more comfortable around us? It's just been incredible, the support.
That is incredible. So do you feel that community does play a big part in the success of that?
Yeah, for sure. Just, talking to people, letting them know what your situation is so they know where they stand. Like they probably wouldn't even known our son was with us for the first month because he just kind of hid out in his room. So we let them know that he was here and he would eventually emerge and be shy and want to meet people. But, they were very welcoming.
That's really good. I'm glad that you ended up in a great neighborhood that allowed that type of integration of your family. And I think that really is important. But community is an important element of so many different types of stories of overcoming. And I think that it's an important one to point out that if we don't talk about it, then we can't create community.
Right. Absolutely right. And I'm working with an organization here in Myrtle Beach right now. We're trying to get some mom's night out activities going and some activities for the adults on the spectrum so they can practice their social skills and get out and meet each other. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think that does make a difference. What's the name of the organization?
Champion Autism Network.
I love that. Champion Autism Network in South Carolina. And I love that they are not just helping the person who has been diagnosed with autism, but the people who surround them.
Exactly right.
Because I think that makes difference. I think that all of us are impacted. All of us, meaning even the people that are not directly in that family, we're all impacted by being able to integrate or help to integrate anyone of your community into the community.
Right.
It can become such a better place as a result of that. Now, I'm seeing a lot more with hiring and jobs, and there's a whole lot. It seems to be a movement now with identifying areas that people, young adults, if you will, who are on the spectrum. And forgive me if I misuse any language or terminology. I do not mean to be disrespectful in any way, but rather just informative and clarifying. But there are a lot of jobs that are now opening up.
Yes. Yeah. This has been a very, very weak area for many, many years. And there's finally some transitioning happening on. The employers are recognizing the ability of these young people on the spectrum and where their finer skill sets are and how valuable they are. The hardest part for them has been that the traditional interview process does not work for them.
Right.
So they're coming up with new ways to get to know the person and get to find their strong points and see if it's a good fit for them. My son just went through this process. Actually, he's trained in fine jewelry. And we went with an organization with a job coach who helped us locate a jeweler. And this gentleman here in Myrtle Beach was so excited to meet my son and to see that he already has a number of skills. And he hired him on the spot, but there was no interview. He just looked at what my son could do. So he looked at his craft and immediately saw that there was some value here.
Absolutely.
So that was very exciting to meet people.
Absolutely. Like that. I think that is an amazing way to realize that we can be judged on more than just one merit.
Right.
On more than just our interviewing skills. We might have different tactics and different abilities that might not otherwise show themselves well
Right.
in a interview process.
Yes.
Because that can be overwhelming for even people that are not on the
Regular.
spectrum. I mean,
Right? Yeah. My son, who's a gamer, he calls that the charisma scale. He says, if you have a really high charisma scale, you're going to get the job, even if your skill set's terrible.
absolutely, that's true.
Yes.
Absolutely, that's true. I love it. Now, Miss Rosier goes on to tell us that the young man who she was talking about, his name is James. He's now in his 30s. He got a standing ovation from his entire high school when he graduated years ago. It was electric because community is so important. I love that. I love that. I love that celebration, that uniform celebration. We all have had the experience of celebrating a baby's first steps, right? We've seen how that just charges the room and changes the energy in it.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't realize is that same applause and that same celebration impacts each and every one of us as we build and grow.
Right. And it's our duty as the adults to normalize this person, whoever's struggling, to embrace them and to hold them up. Because it's not only helping them, like you say, it helps everybody.
It helps everyone. It lifts everyone, all of us together. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Jacqueline. I'm telling you that I would love the opportunity to support. If anyone needs to get in touch with Rebecca and the organizations that she has found value in, support in, they're at sproutinghealthyfamilies.com. You can get the book there as well. And I absolutely love the book. You want to go through the chapters just so that people can see once again how I love that book.
Beautiful cover designed by Lisa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I want to give the subtitle before I get into the chapters, but it's Finding Courage and Intuition for Raising a Child with Autism. And so my chapters are really, a lot about perspective, but I'll just read through them quickly. First one is my personal story. It's titled, Does He Seem Normal to You? Which was a question someone posed to me once. The second is Finding Mindfulness, Courage, and Intuition in Times of Chaos. Third is The Ego. Everyone gets one. Fourth is Communication Flaws and Other Funny Mishaps. The fifth is Empowerment of you and your child, but a lot about empowering your child and how that helps you. 6 is setting boundaries. And this is something that every mom fails at. We're so terrible at this. Setting boundaries so that you get your own space for your own sanity and how important it is, but also teaching your child to understand that they need boundaries too and how they can learn those.
Absolutely.
Chapter 7 is self-compassion, self-care, and perspective taking, remembering that you count and your well-being counts as well. And chapter 8, we kind of talked a little bit about this, celebrate, making sure you recognize those moments of success in your parenting and your child's growth.
I think that it is. I think celebrating is so important. I think giving yourself grace is so important. I think there's so many areas that if we would just breathe and take a step back, we would be able to see just how far we've gotten and that we have so much less far to go than we thought,
Right. And then we know a lot more than we realize. I mean, you're handed this diagnosis and you're suddenly like, I don't know a child like this. I don't know how to parent this child. You actually do know a lot more than you realize, even with a child who has these struggles. And if you can quiet your mind enough to stay calm and let those answers come to you, they will flow right in. You'll get to know your child and their needs and what kind of help they require and how you can maneuver them to where you need them just by giving yourself time to reflect and relax and breathe.
Absolutely. I think that that's so critically important, taking time to take a step back and just look at where things are going so that you can get there more effectively.
Right.
But I definitely want to encourage you, if you have not already gotten your copy of Sprouting Healthy Families, of You Were Made for This, you go to sproutinghealthyfamilies.com, download the book, connect with Rebecca. Rebecca, what's the best way to connect with you?
They can go to my email. It's RebeccaEJeffries@gmail.com.
I'm going to put it up on the screen
Yeah.
so that they can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
And I think I spelled it
That's
right.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So, any last words for moms, caregivers, grandparents, teachers who may be dealing with this for the first time?
Just keep loving them. Just keep loving them. The more you love, the easier it gets, and you'll get so much back from them as well.
I love it. I love it. Rebecca, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Lisa.
coming along with us. Absolutely. For coming along with us today, sharing with our audience what they can get out of just love. That was our subject this morning, was love is the answer. When we can really, really, really partner love with anything that we have to do, it becomes what we get to do,
Right.
as opposed to what we have to do. And we'll find out there's more in it for us than was originally intended. And I'm
Yes.
just grateful. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful. Now, what's your son's name? Is it James?
JJ.
JJ. Okay, JJ. And
Yep.
say hello to your husband. We're going to get down there again. We got to
Yeah.
come down. I love it. I love it. I love it. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you joining our show today. I appreciate you sharing with our audience. And if you have not yet gotten sproutinghealthyfamilies.com is where you can get your own copy of You're Made for This. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Have an amazing day. Can you hang out for me in the green room?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. I am so happy to be able to bring to the foreground so many regular people doing amazing things, right? There's so often that we're caught up on who's the influencer of this and who's the influencer of that. And being able to just meet regular people doing amazing things, just like Miss Jacqueline's friend. Her friend Mavis is a superhero to her now. She is now 60, and her relationship and all the work that she has done with her son is superhuman. She is being given the opportunity to celebrate Miss Mavis. Thank you so much. And we celebrate you for being there for those that you love in your family. We look forward to having more and more conversations like this and bringing you more and more amazing individuals to help to show you that we are all made for this. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining. And any of the ladies that are watching us, please feel free to join us this evening at womenempowermentnetworks.com, 7 p.m., free of charge. It's a virtual assemblyment where you will be amazed at the amount of support that your peers will be there to gift you. Go to womenempowermentnetworks.com. Tonight at 7 o'clock, you can register now at womenempowermentnetworks.com. And tonight at 7 o'clock, we will get to meet you face to face in a Zoom room, and we will be able to celebrate you as you help us to celebrate others. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, and we will talk soon. Remember, keep walking on water.